that just said that a virgin's silence is her consent. And your interpretation of her silence, that she must be shy. What happens if she is silent, Muhammad, because she is afraid?
Well, I think what you're doing is conflating Sharia law with a unique case. Because as I stated towards the beginning of the conversation, is that nowhere in Sharia law does it stipulate that we should follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ, when he married Aisha.
As a Muslim, do you want to get rid of the age of consent in this country?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, so you're choosing now, because you've already admitted, and it's on camera, that in Islam there's no age of consent.
Yes.
You are admitting. So you're saying that you would prefer liberal secular law to Sharia law?
I know what you may think of him, but because we're having a civilized, there's no reason for me to...
Oh, no problem. No, I'm saying,
fine.
What I'm saying, what it does, he will put in a camera, a Muslim doesn't know how to answer questions. He's not to do that.
That is what the Islamic Dawah team, that is what the Islamic Dawah team do every week. Your words condemn yourself. You've been an absolute pleasure to talk to.
You as well.
You've been very nice. We're not going to label this video Muslim does not answer questions. We're going to label this video Honest Muslim answers questions.
Yes, exactly, yes.
That's the title. Applause for this man. Right. Take into consideration what?
You can take into consideration that about 1400 years ago in a desert climate, women and men alike, they had to mature very quickly in order to survive, in order to do what we do today with ease.
Okay. May I reply? Is that your question?
Have you taken that?
This argument is spurious, and the reason why it is spurious is this. Because whilst the sense of childhood innocence, as we might think of it in the 21st century, is not something that applied in the 7th, the reality is that biologically, mentally, there is no way you're going to be able to demonstrate that a child, clearly who is playing with dolls, 9 years old, in her parents' care, if she was in her parents' care, which she was, according to the Hadiths, she's not independent. Therefore, you're not going to be able to demonstrate from any evidence that you can provide that she was in a fit mental, physical or spiritual state to have sex with an adult.
Could you prove that she wasn't?
Yes.
Playing with dolls doesn't prove that she wasn't. Right?
Yeah.
Period. Right? We both know that just because she was playing with a doll, doesn't mean she's not mentally, physically...
If she's playing with dolls at 9 years old, she's a child, mate. If you can't see that, no one can help you. Do you know in certain places in the Middle East, there are wards for children who have had sex too young because their hips have not broadened out, right? Why do you think that's going on?
Well, again, you're still comparing it today to back then.
Do you think that Muhammad is the example for today?
100%.
Right. So would you allow... Have you got any children?
No, unfortunately.
Well, God willing, one day you will have children and they will be healthy and well and live good lives. God willing, I pray that for you.
Thank you.
But let's say, do this thought experiment with me. You've got a 9-year-old girl. Are you going to let her marry a 64-year-old man?
Not today. It's not in our culture. Again, like Shamsi said before, that was a cultural thing.
It's cultural.
So it's not an Islamic thing. Okay?
It's not an Islamic
because as you can, I'm sure you've done a lot of study on Hadith.
Yeah.
There is no Hadith where the Prophet instructs us to go and marry women at the age of 9 or 6.
What's the age of consent in Islam?
There is no age.
There is no age of consent in Islam.
If those are the three criteria, she's physically, spiritually, and mentally able, then she can get married. She has to also agree to it.
Yep.
So
do you
that's
think
the criteria?
Do you think a 9-year-old child,
Not today.
in the dependence of her mother and father, is in a state to refuse marriage to people who believe that he's a prophet?
Sorry,
I'm saying to you, Aisha didn't have a free choice. That's what I'm saying to you. Aisha, my evidence is that you've got a 9-year-old girl in the care of her parents in a community that believes that Muhammad was a prophet, and the prophet is saying, I'd like to marry your daughter. Do you honestly think that that 9-year-old child could turn around to her parents, her community, and this great religious figure and say, actually, no, I don't want to marry this old man? Dude, you clearly, I can see you've not had children. I can see that. I'm telling you,
I'm not trying to compare
a child in
children
her
today.
infancy.
I'm talking about her. The subject is about Aisha.
Yeah.
So there's no point comparing her to children of today.
A child in her infancy would not be able to give a free choice. She couldn't cognitively reason that it was right or wrong. She couldn't cognitively reason whether it was the right or the wrong decision for her. So your argument that she had a free choice is bogus. You're just saying that. Where's your evidence she had a free choice?
If she didn't have a free choice, she wouldn't have narrated so many hadith,
Yeah.
and actually testified about how much she loved him, about their life together.
Yeah.
None of that would happen if she didn't willingly marry him and live the next 9 years.
9 years. 9 years.
He died when she was 18.
She died when. So
He died.
He died when she was 18. Yes. So in terms of
Did you
living
actually,
those.
sorry, and did you actually know the reasoning behind this marriage and why Muslims aren't actually commanded to do so today?
The reasoning is irrelevant to the moral example that it provides.
I'm asking you, do you know, not whether it's relevant or not, do you know the reasoning behind it?
The argument that I'm making, the reasoning behind the marriage is irrelevant. Because what we're arguing about is the fact that we have a system of laws called Sharia.
No, but you're making
Allow me to demonstrate.
Yes, sorry.
We have this system of laws called Sharia that is supposedly utopian in virtue, that is the answer to all the world's problems, and it doesn't even give an age of consent. It does not even give an age of consent. We can do better with secular liberal laws than we can with Sharia. Now, you're trying to argue to me that this man who had sex with a 9-year-old child is a moral example to me. Right. I am saying to you
Not because he had sex with a 9-year-old. That's not why. Because again,
do you not think that would disqualify him?
No, it doesn't, because this was specific to him, and no other Muslim was instructed to do so.
Yeah.
Okay. So to use this example, to say that it disqualifies him,
Yeah.
is not
So
very strong.
your argument is that Muhammad might have done it, but you don't have to do it.
We don't have to.
Right. So according to the Quran, right, when it talks about the period of waiting,
3 months.
3 months,
4
right?
months and 10 days.
And it lists, doesn't it, the groups that you have to wait for as being 3 months.
Yes.
What's the reason for the waiting period? Pregnancy. You all heard that? Yes. Right. Listen to this verse very carefully. This is from Allah, so it gets worse. We're not talking about Muhammad, we're talking about what Allah says. All right? Such of your women, this is in Surah 65 and Ayah 4. All right? Surah 65, Ayah 4. Such of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, that means people who have gone into their menopause, for them the prescribed period, if you have any doubts, is 3 months. Listen to the next bit. And for those who have no courses, for them, it is the same. For what do you call a woman who has no courses?
You know that there is a condition, I forgot the name, I'm trying to search it. There is a condition in which some women reach 25, 26, and some until they die, in which they never ever experience a period.
I mean, this is a nice modern
No.
apologetic.
No. Remember,
But this is, let's be clear, if you have any doubts, 3 months.
Okay,
For
yes,
those who have no courses, it is the same. This is talking about children who have not entered into puberty.
No.
And you just said that the waiting period is to make sure they're not pregnant. Your mind and the mind of the Salafa was the same. You can have sex with kids.
No.
So what is this referring to then?
I already told you. Let me see if I can find the...
I know about the medical condition you're
you know
talking
about
about.
it, okay.
I know about the medical condition. So
Right,
you're saying
so
it's
why
about
you-
that?
yeah.
You're saying it's about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you prove this otherwise?
Well,
Because there are women, so when it...
I think...
like, the book is
No, hold on.
covers everything.
Yeah. For those who have no courses, when it is comparing them to women as past the age of monthly courses, I think that is very clearly talking about children. And we have the example of Muhammad, who had sex with a 9-year-old child.
Like I said, there is no hadith, there's no verse that tells us that we can do so, exactly what he did. When it, like for example, the things that he did that we are supposed to do are mentioned either in the Quran or the hadith. Marriage to 9-6-year-olds or whatever, that is not mentioned in either the Quran or the hadith.
But you've just said that in Sharia law there's no age of consent.
There is no...
The guy's name?
Yeah.
PZ Myers, bro. I've been waiting for you all couple of days.
Right? So you're saying in Islam that you've got no age of consent. You're saying in Islam that Muhammad, as your example, can have sex with a 9-year-old child. And we're seeing in the Quran that it talks about women who have passed the age of having periods and women who have not entered the period of having...
Some women never enter.
Right.
Enter that.
Right.
So which means they can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's obvious. So that
Where is your
cannot
hadith?
limit that.
Where is your hadith?
Hold on.
Where is your hadith demonstrating to me that this ayah is talking about women who never have a period? Where's your evidence that that's the proper interpretation?
You want me to bring up a hadith when this condition was not known back then?
Thank you. This condition was not known back then. So
There are
what
so
do
many-
you think it was
there are so
talking
many-
about
there are so-
when it said for them the
There are
prescribed period,
several-
if you have any doubts, and 3 months, and for those who have no courses, it is the same.
Remember that there are several verses in the Quran that we had no knowledge in terms of biology, physics, astronomical knowledge back then, but we do today. All right, and the Quran covers it all, and it's a book that covers it fine.
Right.
So just because we didn't know the condition back then does not mean it's not applicable to that condition.
It would be interesting to see what was the context by which this verse was revealed. But here's my point, brother. Here's my point. Is that...
My name is Mohammed, by the way.
Okay, Bob, nice to meet you. So here's my point, Mohammed. The reality is, when I look at Sharia law, and I look at liberal secular law, I think that we would be doing better to follow liberal secular law over Sharia law.
All right, well that's a broad subject. Let's try and stick to
Yeah, but
to this one.
but we're using this as an example, and this is why. Because in Islam, you don't have an age of consent, but in secular liberal law that we do.
Can I answer the age of consent?
Yeah.
Because you could have, in today's society, you could have a woman that's 25 years old. She's physically ready. But she might not be spiritually and mentally ready. True or not?
Yes.
Could that not be the case?
That could be the case.
Okay? So that's why we don't have an age of consent. Not because we're allowed to marry a 9-year-old or a 6-year-old. It's because women vary. Everyone's different.
Did you just admit you can marry a 9 and a 6-year-old?
And I said it's not because we can. Okay?
Can you?
In today's society, we all know children are not.
Yeah, but Shamsi's made this big deal about Western superior, that Western imperialism.
Well, he has
because
got a point when
we aren't using the ages of consent we find in Africa and the Middle East. But in places like Africa and the Middle East, we see places where children who are not ready to be married are being married and are then suffering physically because they're having sex. No. They're not all being forced. They're not all being forced. They're living in cultures and contexts where they're expected to marry and they don't know any better and they marry. Go to
That's a lack of
Pakistan.
education. Point when we say that even in this country, up until 100 years ago,
Yes.
girls were able to get married at 7. So, and that's 1,300 years after the fact. And the other point that he brought up, which is that in his society, no one made an issue of it. Imagine this: the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was reprimanded by the pagans and the Jews and the Christians just for saying, "I believe in one God."
Yeah.
So saying I believe in one God isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But according to you, marrying a girl at 6,
Yep.
and consummating it at 9 is a big deal. Why did they not say anything? If they made a huge deal.
Are you aware? Are you aware that the Byzantine? Go on, I'll let you finish.
Actually, well, go on. I think you probably knew what I was going to say.
Yeah. Are you aware that the Byzantine Empire in the 5th century, so that's 2 centuries before Islam, elevated the age of consent to 12 or 13 years old?
Yeah.
Okay? So even back in the classical world, before Islam was founded, cultures and civilizations were identifying that they needed to create a lower bar, a bar raising above 9. Yeah? So what I'm trying to say to you...
Remember that the Arabian Peninsula, the Arabs at the time were quite ignorant of cultures around them.
Yeah.
So
I stand.
But what I'm saying to you is that the Byzantines knew better than Muhammad.
Stand, not a fan.
That's not necessarily true. Just because they raised it doesn't mean that was better than that.
Would you like to get, as a Muslim, would you like to get rid of the age of consent in this country?
No.
So what you're saying is you would prefer the liberal
you mean
secular
16,
law
16.
over Sharia law?
Sorry, ask the question again.
So, I'll ask you again. As a Muslim, do you want to get rid of the age of consent in this country?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, so you're choosing now, because you've already admitted, and it's on camera, that in Islam there's no age of consent.
Yes.
You are admitting, so
well,
you're saying that you would prefer liberal secular law to Sharia law?
No.
Oh, so
No, it's not a contradiction. I know you're going to say it's a contradiction.
Square the
right?
circle for me.
Okay, because your second question was, would I prefer it? Not would I choose it, so you didn't give me a choice. Yeah, either this or that. Oh!
No.
It's a free country, man. You're a free man, yeah?
Hold on, yeah, but I don't have to assimilate.
You don't have to assimilate. Interesting.
Anyway, like I said,
Let him speak. Let's not behave like the Islamic Dawah team. Let him speak.
Don't behave like these Christian missionaries, yeah? Be careful.
Ali Dawah, I'll debate you next.
Got a signature?
Go on in.
I lost my trail of thought.
The question was, you're on record as stating that in Islam there is no age of consent.
Yes.
Then you answered the question that would you want to get rid of the age of consent in this country, and you said no. So I want you to square this circle for me as a Muslim. Do you prefer the Sharia law, no age of consent, or do you prefer liberal secular law which says age of consent?
I prefer no age of consent.
No age of consent. So as a Muslim, do you want to get rid of the age of consent in this country?
No. Right. No. Like I said,
Your conscience is fighting.
No.
Your conscience is fighting your reason, friend.
No, the reason
Your
for
conscience
that,
is fighting your
the reason
reason.
for that, personally, this is a personal, because if the age of consent as it is works fine with the multicultural society that we have. Within the Islamic community, the no age of consent thing works perfectly.
So you would like to get rid of the age of consent within the Islamic community? Would you like to get rid of the age of consent within the Islamic community?
Well, that's our law. Sharia law, that's what we follow.
Okay, right. So what I'm hearing, is that you want to abolish any legal protection that a child has not to be married.
Actually, we already have a legal protection in place.
What is that? Show me the hadith.
Like I said.
So you said
the woman cannot get married unless
they're physically, mentally, and spiritually, right?
And she has to give consent.
So show me where it says that.
Hold on. She has to give consent.
So show me where it says that in the Quran.
In the Quran. Is there a verse? I can't remember.
Maybe Ali, help him. Ali, help him. Ali, that one. Help him.
We're not.
Help your brother. Help your brother.
We're not encyclopedias, There are things.
He knows. You can call him friend.
So Ali, the question that I'm asking, right? The brother Shamsi the first, the great Caliph here. Shamsi ran off, as he always does. Shamsi ran off. So the question, well, it's on film. Everyone can view it and make their own mind up. So the question that I asked was the defense given by Muhammad and Shamsi to Sharia law is that a woman cannot marry unless they're mentally, spiritually, and physically able, and that for this reason you don't need an age of consent. So what I'm asking for is where in the
She
Quran,
also has to give consent.
and yes, she has to give
cannot
consent.
be forced.
So what I'm asking for is where in the Quran or the Hadiths does it show that a woman has to be mentally, physically, spiritually able to marry and give consent? Where's your evidence?
Answer.
Scholars, what I'll do is I'm gonna answer the question, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to answer it so you guys understand it. So I'm not answering Bob's question.
Not answering my Bob's question. No, I want you to answer my question.
Answer.
Ali Dawa, you're not here to kidnap this discussion.
I'm answering the question.
Answer the
I'm
question.
gonna answer it like maybe this guy's asking me. Okay.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm gonna
Answer Bob's question.
I'm gonna answer the question.
He's going to rephrase my question.
So now, what I'm going to do is, guys, where does it in the Quran or the Hadith it shows us here? Firstly, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a clear-cut evidence because he married, one second, and basically we're doing this. By the way, guys, if you haven't subscribed to me, Ali Dawah, subscribe to my channel. We released a video.
Patting yourself on the back.
On
Self-promotion.
the back, bro.
I thought pride and vanity
Answer the
wasn't a
question.
trait of a Muslim.
Thank you. Anyways, moving swiftly on. Nice. You know, long bro. You know when you box it, somebody hits you up. Anyway,
So,
Answer the
answer the question, Ali.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
The reason I said subscribe to my channel is not so I can be like, oh, you know what?
Answer the question,
Answer the
bro.
question, Ali.
Boring, bro.
Brother, they're shouting at me.
Oh, he's complaining that he's been shouted at. Every week I come here and get shouted at.
Yeah.
Have you guys finished? Yeah, finished yet? We're not in a playground. We're not kids,
So,
yeah?
answer the question.
Answer the question.
Okay. Calm down.
Hurry up.
Answer the question.
Why are you stalling, Ali?
Stop stalling, bro.
You're stalling, Ali.
You're stopping me. You're stopping me.
Yeah, stop waffling.
You're stopping me.
So answer the question.
Answer Bob.
Relax.
Hurry up.
Relax. Calm down.
Before Christmas.
All right. Wait, I think he's going to answer the question that I asked.
Now,
Go.
anyway, the reason I said subscribe to my channel is
Oh.
because
The question, I'll restate the question. Ali,
Yes.
No one cares about your channel, bro.
Yes. Thank you.
all right, we'll let him talk for a bit. We'll let him talk for a bit.
The reason I was saying subscribe to my channel is because one second, I'm gonna answer it. Calm down, relax yourself, calm down, have a coffee. Is because we'll be releasing 2 series videos discussing this topic. Now, coming to the main question here, is you said where is an evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, married Aisha at 6, consummated the marriage at 9. Yes? Okay. Now, why did the Prophet wait 3 years? Why did he wait 3 years? Why? I would have been like a paedophile who loves children. Why would he wait 3 years?
Okay.
So, one second, that's what I said. Bob, anyone can buy it, not you. Anyone can. I'm answering the question. The Prophet, peace be upon him, the fact that he waited 3 years, why? Because Aisha was not ready to consummate the marriage because she wasn't mentally, sexually, and physically ready. And the Quran and the Sunnah says there's a harm factor, which means in this country the legal age is what?
Okay, so
I haven't finished.
right,
So,
Ali Dawa has given an answer. Ali Dawa, that's what he thinks. Yeah, that's what he thinks. Do you believe that? Do you believe that?
Ricky, I'm Ali, yeah? Ricky, you answered the question.
Ricky.
You answered his question.
Ricky.
Bob, you're Bob the Builder. Just carry on
Ricky.
building, yeah? Okay.
Ricky.
Let me speak to the guy, man. The guy.
Ricky,
Yeah, okay.
use your
I like
own
your
mind.
tracksuit, Bob.
Is a 9-year-old child able to do that?
That's what
Can he answer for himself?
But do you don't need, you can think for yourself.
Bob, are you his brain? Are you
He
his brain?
thinks so.
I'm
Are you
asking.
his brain?
So,
Listen,
Ali
age just
Dawa,
said- age just said
No,
that she was mature enough at that age to give consent. So
That's
I'm
what he
asking,
thinks.
is a child at 9 years old actually mature enough? So I'm listening.
the reason.
For us to
So,
understand this,
notice he's not actually answering my question.
Waited between 6 and 9.
what I'm going to do
According to Sahih Bukhari.
Ali Dawa's argument is this.
According to Sahih Bukhari.
Ricky, he wants to isolate.
Don't run it. Don't run. That's a tough.
Antonio, man. Ali Dawa. So the question that I asked, the question that I asked you, Ali
Can I answer
Dawa.
Ricky?
No. Answer Bob first.
You want to answer my question?
Answer Bob.
Why don't you answer my
I will
question?
defend Ricky's freedom of speech.
No,
Ricky,
the
ask the question.
question that I asked you
I'm speaking to Ricky.
was where in the Hadith and the Quran does it demonstrate and say clearly that a child cannot marry unless they are mentally, physically and able to do so?
Show us.
Ali Dawa's response was, Well, Muhammad waited 3 years. What does that prove? It proves nothing. It just proves that Muhammad fancied a girl at 6, but realized he had to wait until she was a little older before he wanted to do something about it. It does not prove, it does not demonstrate that Muhammad instituted laws. It does not demonstrate. Let me finish my point. It does not demonstrate an answer to my question. I asked the question: where in the Hadith or the Quran does it stipulate clearly that a woman, a child, has to be mentally, physically, and spiritually able to marry and give consent? That was the question. All Ali Dawah did is say that a man who had sex with a child waited 3 years before he did so. That doesn't prove the question that I'm asking. I'll ask you again, Ali Dawah. Where in the Quran or the Hadith does Muhammad say, does Muhammad teach that you have to wait for someone to be mentally, spiritually, physically able, and that they give consent? That is the question that I'm asking you, not how long a paedophile waits to rape a child.
Answer.
That's hard.
Answer the question.
If I get stopped once, I'm going to
Answer.
Now, they're here for an agenda. I assume you're here to learn, yes? The question that was asked, I'm going to assume is this. How do we know? You know why? Because you know they're going to get deep. Anyway. I'm asking a very simple
Hey, what you say?
A paedophile who loves children, yeah? Wants to commit sexual intercourse with children, yeah? Why on earth would he wait 3 years? I just want to know.
Can I answer it? Can I answer it?
I'd
love to answer it.
When I was talking,
Can I answer the question?
You know why? We know the answer's hurt.
No. You asked the question. I'd like to answer it.
Ricky,
So, Ricky,
if someone waits a while to...
Look, have I finished my case?
According to Bukhari, the reason she waited was she was ill.
I promise you, I'm going to answer this. But I'm just saying,
Would you let him speak? Would everyone let him speak? Give his answer to what he said. Everyone go listen to him.
If he answers my question, I want him to answer my question.
Listen, let him get straight to the point. Let him make his
Ricky,
point.
what was my question? What was my question? What was my question?
About one verse in the Quran where it gives consent.
So the question that I'm asking is in response to the question that I'm asking Ali Dawah is this. He is trying to present Muhammad as a moral example to you today, and he's trying to say that Sharia law is what we need to follow today. And I am saying that we don't need to follow a man who had sex with a child. Now their argument, their counter argument, is that she was spiritually.
That does not answer the question. You walk for all the time, bro. You never answer the question.
Everyone ever salesman. Let this man. You don't think I can everyone be fair.
Be quiet.
Stop being a salesman. He wants my question answered.
The question that was asked is, where is the evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah that a woman has to be sexually, mentally, physically ready to consummate the marriage? Now, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in science of hadith, we have a principle. What is a hadith? Yes? It's the Prophet's sayings, his teaching, his actions, even his silence. So when the Prophet does something, we follow it. Therefore, when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, married Aisha at 6, and let's put a context to it. Aisha was proposed to by another man before the Prophet. So hold on a second. We have 2 points here. Number one is this. In that society, they called the Prophet a magician. They said, you're a poet. They hated his guts. Not a single man from that day till this day, 50 years ago, brought this argument out. Not like him. You know, Christian missionaries like him. None of them brought this argument. 50 years ago it started coming up. You know why?
You're not answering my question.
No.
You're not answering the question, bro.
Fam, even if I answer, you're going to say the answer.
Still waffling. You're still selling. Stop selling us.
Ricky wants to
Let me finish. I'm finishing.
So what verses are you going to? What have you?
No, he's on the way, look. He's selling again.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Is there anyone that has a genuine question?
Answer Bob's question. Answer Bob's question.
Bob does. Would you like me to
Answer Bob. Answer Bob.
this question? Can I?
Answer Bob. Answer Bob.
Hadith.
Can I?
Answer Bob's question.
Where's your
Don't
hadith?
run, Shakeli. Come back.
I'll just explain.
Okay, so Ali Dawah doesn't want to tackle my question. The defense that the Muslim Dawah team are marshalling to defend their prophet from this kind of behavior is to say that according to Muslim scholars, a woman, a child, must be mentally, physically, spiritually able and willing to give consent to have marriage. And if these criterion are met, then therefore it is okay. Now, I am therefore justified to ask, in this perfect system of laws, where in the Quran and the Hadith is this stipulated? Ali Dawah's argument is simply to go on some convoluted argument based upon the fact that Muhammad waited 3 years before he had sex with a 9-year-old girl. That was his argument. The reality is that Ali Dawah has not answered the question and has provided no evidence. Muslim scholars scandalized by the critique that others are making of their prophet are innovating answers to the critique. They're making it up. The reality is that Muhammad wasn't bothered by these questions in his own day, and neither was anyone else. So no one was asking them. So the Muslim scholars didn't come out with these kinds of arguments. Sunni scholars came out with these arguments later. They innovated and invented laws based upon things that Muhammad didn't say and that Muhammad didn't do and that are not actually clear in the Quran. So a system of laws that is being invented from century to century, as Islam is, can hardly claim to be a perfect system of laws revealed in the 7th century.
Sunniism's made up as you go along. That's the difference. Sunniism's made up.
Christianity, by contrast, the church is a faith that learns from its mistakes and is willing to allow itself to be informed by learning from society. That includes science. And so we know that children are not able to make cognitive decisions of the magnitude necessary to agree to marriage at 9 or at 13, as some Christians used to practice in the past. And so you won't find churches today arguing for child marriages, because we have learned from secular sciences that the emotional, physical and mental development of children is too young at 9, at 13. And we know that children need a legal age of consent to protect them from manipulation by their families and communities into doing that which is wrong. That is why you can't walk into a church with a 14-year-old child, even if she says, I am mentally, physically unable to marry. You can't. It's illegal. Children need this legal protection. Islam does not provide it. Liberal secular laws, therefore, are superior to Sharia law.
Regarding consent, I can't find the other yet. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But it is. Aisha asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam if women must be asked for their permission on marriage.
Yep.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied replied, yes. She said the virgin is asked for her permission but gets shy. The Prophet Muhammad said her silence is her permission. So, from the hadith...
Silence is her permission?
Yeah, it's just because she's shy.
What happens if she's afraid? Mohammed. Mohammed. Forget Shamsi the first for a second.
Come, Shams.
You said that...
Come, Shams.
You said... Mohammed, you just said, you quoted a hadith that just said that a virgin's silence is her consent. And your interpretation of her silence, that she must be shy. What happens if she is silent, Mohammed, because she is afraid? Sharia law, that as you have just narrated from the hadith that you are using to defend your case, is a cause of injustice. Are you saying that a virgin can't be silent because she's scared? Answer the question. Can a virgin be silent because she's scared?
No, because she would sleep up eventually.
Do you think? Do you think? This is called this is wishful thinking, Mohammed.
Charles has no idea about marriage.
You've just... No, don't let him get off the point. The point that he's making is that silence is interpreted as consent. What kind... In the... No. In the Christian church, brother, let me show to you that the Christian faith is better than Islam. In the Christian faith, you cannot marry unless you give positive consent. And that has been the Christian practice since the sacrament of marriage.
Is that all cultures of Christians?
No. The point that I'm making is that he is now suggesting that silence is consent.
That's culture. That's a culture he's talking about.
Read the hadith again. Where does it say shy?
We need a Jew here or a Hebrew. Yeah, because what I'm saying is in certain cultures...
No, let him say it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, may I read it? Right. So, where is it? Which one? This one.
So, first of
Aisha asked the Prophet Muhammad if women must be asked for their permission of marriage. The Prophet Muhammad replied, yes. She said, the virgin is asked for her permission, but she gets shy. Prophet Muhammad said, her silence is her permission.
Right, two parts of the hadith. Right, the first one was positive consent.
Yeah.
And the second one was if the woman is shy. All right.
Silence, brother,
Silence, okay.
is not consent. Silence can be for many reasons.
No, you can.
Was Aisha infallible?
You can give
Was
consent.
Aisha infallible?
No. Of course
So when she said that the virgin might be shy, can she speak for every woman that is silent?
not. The Rasul, he said, he replied to that, and he said, yes, that her silence is... So
How can
the
you...
question, she posed the question.
Yeah.
He answered. So it's not her saying, so to say that she's infallible based on this hadith doesn't make sense because she posed the question.
Yes, she posed the question, but your prophet said that silence is consent.
Okay, and there are many cases where you can give consent with your silence.
There are many cases, but when it comes to marriage, brother, when it comes to marriage, silence is not good enough. There can be many reasons why someone is silent. And you cannot assume that because someone is silent, they're just shy. This is kind of mad thinking. Can you not see the illogical reasoning there? Look, philosophically, philosophically, you never make an argument from silence. Do you know why? Because from silence, you can make any argument you want to.
Any assumption.
Any assumption. So if someone is silent, yeah, if someone is silent, you cannot assume that it's the reason that they're shy.
Unless it's a cultural expression. Unless, listen, it's a simple thing. If in that culture, yeah, there is a way of saying yes, but in their way of saying yes, they keep silent. That is their cultural norm. Do you understand?
I
There's
understand.
some people that might have that way. The problem is if you try and take that idea across other cultures.
Demonstrate to me that in the 7th century that was the case. What evidence are you using?
You can't demonstrate what happened in the second.
You can't, exactly. But you're upholding it as a moral example for today.
Hold on. We don't need 7th century. You can do it now. In Yemen and various other places, in certain cultures.
Yemen.
Yemen.
I'm from Yemen.
I'm not saying Yemen is the best.
Yeah, we're surely good.
Is that true?
But it's Yemen.
I'm saying to you, even if we go to these cultures now,
Yeah.
and they're practicing it now and they're Islamic, you can't tell if that's how they was before these hadith he's talking about or after. Do you see what I'm saying? So for instance, the silence aspect could have come from the hadith or it could have been prior to the hadith. You understand? So I'm saying you can't really measure it. No, what I'm saying is...
We can measure it.
No,
We
but I
can measure
completely-
it.
What I'm saying is you
forgot about
can't
this
say...
situation
We
in
can
Yemen
measure
where
it.
it's
What I'm
same
saying, you
practice.
can't say, with the information of Arabia, right?
No, we can measure it. Shall I tell you how we can measure it? Firstly, let's dismiss this myth that all cultures are equal and that somehow all cultures are equally good or bad. The reality is, some cultures are just simply better than other ones. And that is a damn fact. You're never going to convince me that female genital mutilation is somehow superior to cultures that don't practice female genital mutilation.
Is that the
And
case?
cultures that assume shyness is consent is not superior to those cultures that say silence is not consent.
That's far-fetched. That one...
Who said
But-
that? Who said that?
but-
Who said
but-
that? That was particularly
but-
in that case.
but-
Don't put that one to all the case.
but-
For 1.4
but-
Muslims,
but-
silence is the answer.
but-
That's wrong, man.
But Muhammad made a legal ruling that is applicable in Sharia.
No, that's
So-
you made. Bob,
So you-
the builder made that law in Sharia.
So you
Not Muhammad.
quoted that
You
hadith.
made that law.
You
right
quoted that hadith to demonstrate.
Well, I quoted that hadith to demonstrate that.
Take care. So you quoted that hadith.
To demonstrate that there is consent given, and consent has to be given by the female.
So you're selectively using that hadith. You're saying the bit that works with my argument I use,
no, I'll tell
and
you
the
what.
bit that embarrasses me I don't use.
He's saying the whole thing is
You
about...
don't understand it. You haven't got that brain to understand it. That's it.
Talks about giving
clear,
consent.
It's clear cut. The
Yes.
second one, we could debate about.
So what you're doing
how
is
it can be
you're
interpreted
selectively
for us.
using your sources. You're saying
No,
the bit
it's
that
because
helps
it's not-
my argument is the valid bit,
not
and the bit that embarrasses me, the bit that makes
No.
Sharia look bad, we will debate that. No, use your sources fully.
Checkmate! Checkmate! No, it's not checkmate.
Hold on, let me just make this point.
Bob, you're on fire.
Because one part is very explicit. We don't need to.
They're
discuss
both
it.
explicit.
No.
It's clearly explicit in
No,
both parts.
one is... No, it is not.
The second one, we can debate on, the
silence.
philosophical
Yeah, the
grounds
philosophical grounds,
and
the
the cultural
cultural
grounds,
aspect.
and that
Right.
moves us into a whole
Behind
different
silence,
topic.
you can debate that.
That's why I'm leaving it aside. It's not because I'm trying to run from it.
But you are running from it.
No.
You are running
I'm
from it.
leaving it to a side.
This
for
is
the
your
purpose of the
source.
topic.
You brought it up. This is the evidence
To
you
answer your question-
provided.
to answer your question
Yes,
about-
and what you're trying to do is
30
you're
seconds.
trying to say that I have to use this source selectively as you. No. Your source is saying,
You're going
yes,
into a
you have
grey
to ask
area.
for
Yeah, but you're
consent,
going
but if
into the
someone
grey
is
area.
shy and is silent, their silence is taken as consent. I'm saying to you that we have a better way in the church. The better way in the church that you should follow is simply that the woman and the man must give verbal consent to be married.
Why should we?
If Sharia law is the best system of law,
wait, hold on.
defend it for what it is.
Bible has better laws,
So if
but the
if
church
a woman
has very
comes to
crap
church
laws.
and she's shy and she doesn't give,
She can't marry.
She can't marry. So even though she may want to marry, but she's too shy to say something.
If she is,
Wait.
yeah, go on, ask a
No,
question.
answer
Ask
the
a question.
If the woman comes and she wants to marry
That's your opinion.
X, but she's too shy to say it,
Yeah,
that means she cannot get married.
yeah,
Cannot get married.
yeah.
Simply because she hasn't said it.
Right. So the question is a fair one. The question is a fair one. The question.
I'm sorry, but
The
because
question-
the conversation is having too many people
No,
jump
it's,
in.
bro,
Yeah.
it's not that.
The
I'm saying you're missing
question,
out. It's not really a
Mohammed's
simple thing.
question
I used to be
is a fair one. I've asked Mohammed some questions. He's been decent enough to answer. I owe it to him to reciprocate. He's asked the question that if a woman enters into a church and she is too shy to give consent, but it's only because she's shy. Does that mean she can't marry? The answer categorically and absolutely is yes, she cannot marry.
How do you know that's
Because
right?
in the church, you cannot marry unless you exchange vows. And the exchanging of vows means that you must. So you have to give them. Hold on one second.
I'll let you finish.
Let me finish.
You have to deal with
So you asked the question. You asked the question. What happens if the woman is silent? I am saying to you. I am saying to you.
Orthodox Christianity all
I am
in
saying
different
to you.
areas where what you say doesn't apply.
That's not true. You're lying. Don't lie about my faith. Don't lie about my faith. Don't lie about my faith.
I want to hear his point of view, what he follows.
The point that I'm making to
There's
you.
no point going
The point I'm making to
all
you.
Christianity because he follows one.
For a
one
marriage to be valid in the Christian church, the following must happen. There must be an exchange of vows that are given honestly and unforced.
Who said
Yeah,
in the
Exchange
camp?
of vows. You mean they say yes?
they exchange vows,
What do they say?
and those vows,
What do
I know
they
it's
say?
true.
those vows are
I know it's
personable
true.
to the
There's no
couple.
point asking
Do
for
they say
references
the
if I
vows
know
or do
it's
they
true.
say yes and I do?
Those
No, I
vows
heard that.
are personable to the couple.
Did they read
One man, one woman.
Did they read the whole vow?
The
Did they
ceremony.
read all the vows?
The ceremony, brother, I'm trying to address his question. May I address his question?
No,
May
you don't-
I address? Stop interrupting. I'm talking to Mohammed, not to you. Stop forcing yourself into this conversation.
No, I have to.
I
because
want to
listen,
talk to Mohammed.
You want a Christian,
Brother,
I would.
stop forcing yourself
He don't
into
need your
this
help.
conversation.
He does need my
I'm
help.
talking
He don't want
to
your help.
Mohammed. You're right. He does need your help, but I want to talk to him.
I need
My
his umbrella.
question to Mohammed. You've asked me a question. In the Christian faith, vows must be exchanged between the couple, and they cannot be forced. They must be freely given. Okay, that's the first thing.
It says one man, one woman.
And then there must be a consummation. That is it. Those are the two criteria that are needed.
You know that we also have a process as well in Islam. The
Which includes silence.
The silence itself. That's just the.
But he don't want your help. Bro, hear what I'm saying? He's talking about vows, yes?
Yes.
It's a very simple thing. The vows are normally read out by someone else. The person
Not
says,
true.
I do. Hear what I'm saying?
yeah.
Not
They say,
always
I
true.
do. I agree. But I'm saying for the most part, they say, I do or yes, etc.
Yes.
It's a simple thing. So he's talking about vows as though the
The
person.
vows are given.
Wait, stop.
I was gonna come back on that.
I'm saying he's trying to say that you read the whole vow thing. When you reduce it to a very simple yes, I do or whatever, it becomes very narrow now, so the person could just nod their head according to culture.
No.
Or keep, wait.
No.
Or keep silent.
No.
Or the point is, if the parents, the person, let's say the girl is shy, and she's discussed with her parents, yes, I like him. But she herself is not going to say yes verbally. Once there's a discussion between the parents, that's up to them.
What
You can't-
evidence
wait,
can
so
you
wait,
marshal
stop,
to
stop,
show
stop,
I
this?
do.
Stop,
She says
stop, stop.
I do.
I'm saying you cannot superimpose
Vows.
2018's culture
says I
of
do.
liberalism
Wrong.
and all these different things
Wrong.
upon cultures of the past.
Right.
Do you understand? All
Okay.
cultures, all cultures where there's villages all over this world. Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever. Do you understand? So him just coming with this westernized version of Christianity, this modernized version of Christianity, does not
You've
work around the world.
successfully
So
forced your
you-
way
not
into
the
this
old version,
conversation.
by the way.
So let me correct you.
the
Let
newest
me
version.
correct you.
Try
Let me
if
correct
you
you.
can.
Yeah.
Do you remember
Let
the
me
point?
correct you.
On
Let
which
me
point?
correct
Which
you.
point?
Yeah.
Do you
Let me
remember
correct
the point?
you.
On every
So
point.
he's trying to argue.
Go on.
He's trying to argue
Sorry.
that there are examples of cultures and civilizations where this giving of consent is not articulated. So
That's what I
let's
said?
look at the
what
Coptic
I
and
said?
Ethiopian churches. The Coptic and Ethiopian churches are African churches rooted in Africa.
Kind of.
And their ceremonies are as old as anything in Europe. They are as antiquated. I can't even say the word. Antiquated as anything found in Europe. And their faith is as equally valid and apostolic as anything found in Europe. This myth pushed by the Islamic Dawah team that Christianity is an imposition on Africa is a complete myth. In their church services, the women also say, I do. The women also give vows. This is something that is common amongst all Christian churches. Now, I'm asking you.
Go and research this.
Hold on. I'm asking.
What he's
No.
saying is not true at all.
Right. What I want from you is something that we can go away and look into. to see where Christianity is practiced, where this consent is not given verbally. Where shall I research?
Romania,
Romania? Okay, I'll do that. That's Orthodox, Romanian
where they
Orthodox.
still marry the girls at 12, by the way.
That's not true.
What do you mean that's not true?
And how old are the boys?
Hold on, stop.
In America.
How old are the boys? Listen to him.
In America.
How old are the boys? 20 yards,
United
30 yards.
States, in
I'm not comparing it.
Texas.
I'm not comparing it. I'm not
At the
comparing
age of
it.
30.
I think one was
If
27.
you go to Arizona,
But anyway.
it's 14. If you go to New York, it's age 16. Sorry.
So Romania, the age of
If you
the
go to
government,
different countries in the different part of the
is
world,
16.
How many people are talking? How many people are
Right.
I'm saying that
He said
the lady
culture
is
is
living. See you next week.
I got a Romanian brethren.
age of consent in Romania.
I'm not talking about the laws, I'm talking about the culture. The church culture. That's what we're talking about, the church. He's mentioning the church. What are you saying? Here we go, bro.
We're talking about law.
No, stop. We're talking about the church, sorry. No, we're not.
Let's get back to the central point.
Okay.
Because if we're talking about law, when Christianity says there's no homosexuality, the law allows it. Thank you very much.
Latvian Parliament. I asked for age of Google. What are you doing to me, man?
No, stop.
I asked for age of consent in Romania. It gives me the Latvian
We're not talking
Parliament.
about the government. We're talking about the church, the Christian culture.
Hold on.
Look at that in there.
Romania age of consent. Let's
What
have
is
a
your
look.
actual point?
I'm saying that him trying to superimpose this idea that Christianity is this monolithic way of doing things, that you have to say yes verbally, and that they've grown and evolved in regards to age of consent in marriage, is absolute garbage.
Right.
In Europe, I'm saying I've got
the
Romanian
brother has
brethren,
just been fact-checked and he is wrong.
How?
He said that the age of consent,
I
that
didn't
the
say that. Don't lie.
Romanians were still marrying children at 12.
Yes.
The reality is that the age of consent
Put it
in
in.
Romania is
I
15
didn't
years
say that.
old.
No,
He
don't
lied.
lie. Don't lie.
He lied.
You know what?
It's right there. What does that?
Okay,
You read it.
wait,
You
wait,
read
stop.
it. Read it.
I didn't say the law.
Read it.
Go to the culture.
Read it.
Go to. There was a recent case, in fact, either this year or late last year, where
Read it.
it stopped us.
We are comparing the law
No, we're not.
of Sharia.
No, we're not. We are
We
comparing
are.
Christian culture.
We're talking about
We're talking
Sharia
about
law.
Christian culture.
No, you're moving away
Suddenly
from
he
the
wants
point.
to shift the debate off
You
Sharia law.
came late. You came
Talk about
late.
culture. We're talking about you got fact checked.
Don't let him
Right,
back.
brother, read that for us. Read it. What's he saying? Loud and clear.
The age of consent
Type in.
in Romania is 15 years old.
All right,
Thank
go.
you very much.
Hold on,
He
stop.
said it was 12. He
I
lied.
didn't say that. Don't. Are you serious? I'll say it again.
It's on camera.
So he right. All right. You. Let's get back to our.
No.
This is why it's difficult when people.
Yeah.
Like I said, in Sharia, even if the version is silent, he said that that's her permission. You will eventually know that this is false because there are several steps afterwards. Yeah, just her saying, just her being shy, in the first meeting or whatever. Afterwards, you have the nikah, which you know about, yeah, in which they need to make sure that she wants to, and that's where she actually needs to give a verbal.
So can you demonstrate from the Hadith or the Sirat literature where Aisha had her nikah?
I did have the reference, I forgot it now.
She didn't.
No, she did have her nikah.
She might have. I genuinely don't know. I am genuinely asking. I don't know the answer to that
She did
question.
have the nikah.
So can we find where Aisha had it? But continue making your point.
The Prophet talked to the father, Abu Bakr.
Oh, look at this, brother. Hold on.
Yeah.
Romanian gypsy children become engaged aged 6 and 4.
Okay.
Okay, wait.
Engaged.
Right, hold on,
Romanian-
Stop.
You're trying to.
You do
No, you're
that
not
while
listening. You're not
I'll
listening.
try and bring the
What I'm
talk,
saying
yeah?
to you lot is, when I put to this guy the Christian tradition, yeah, all of a sudden, this guy wants to change it. All right, a 12-year-old Christian girl getting married in Romania.
Yeah.
Okay,
burst in, didn't
that
he?
was the thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Why did you not go into that? Which I said, I mentioned the age of 12.
Yeah.
They had a story where a guy who
Yeah.
was in his 20s, he got arrested. Yeah?
Yeah.
Because
Good.
his wife was...
Good. He got arrested. Good.
Stop.
Good. So why don't we arrest? Why wasn't Mohammed arrested?
You're not listening.
What are you doing? What are you doing, mate?
Right.
What are you talking about?
You're here.
God, was God arrested? How old is God?
Is Muhammad God?
Hold on.
Is Muhammad God?
Who impregnated Mary?
Where's her age?
Your God, did he
Where
get
is
arrested?
her age? How old was she?
You tell me, how old was Mary?
We don't know her age.
But God is a lot older than Mary, right?
We don't know her age.
Hold on. What's the age gap between God and Mary?
Have we heard this?
What's the age gap? That's what I'm saying.
You're interrupted.
No. Stop. You have to go back to the 12-year-old.
Okay.
So we're talking about the culture.
The culture.
I'm saying to you, the discussion was which we were having.
Is Muhammad?
Stop. I'm saying I mentioned that in Romania, in their Christian culture, they still marry at age 12.
Yes.
I'm saying not only did I hear it from a Romanian friend, I also got it from a newspaper article.
And you'll find. And you'll find.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on, wait.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm saying to you that when you come and read it back to me now, you're talking about the government and their laws. I'm talking about the Christian culture in the land. Do you understand?
So let's just address that point. Let's address that point. Firstly, he's not the only one that's got Romanian friends, and he's not the only one that's been to Romania. The fact of the matter is that Romanians see themselves as very different from gypsies. And the Romanians would condemn a lot of the practices of the gypsy people.
What's that got to do with what I said?
Let me finish. I am going to relate it back. Can I relate it back? Can I relate it back?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So,
can
I relate it back? Can I relate it back?
Are they Christians?
Can I relate it back?
Of course you can.
Thank you.
But
So,
are they Christians though?
can I relate it back?
Yes, you can.
Can I relate it back? Right, be quiet for a second. Let me do
Do you
that.
agree they're Christians?
Let me do that.
Because remember you said Christians, right?
Not deny it. So,
okay, you're not denying it. So
so
they're Christians, right?
the issue that we were talking about was the practice of the church about giving verbal consent, and he has changed the topic back to age of consent.
No.
Furthermore,
if they're too young, they can't give consent.
According to Sharia,
You said if they're too young, they can't give consent.
and the Christian faith, the church in Romania. Let me ask you this question. The Romanian Orthodox Church.
There's not one church.
Can you produce me? Can you produce me the state of the?
There's not one church.
Show me the churches in Romania.
He's not listening, is he?
Show me the churches in Romania
You're not
that are
listening.
advocating
You're not
for
listening.
this practice
You're
of the
not listening.
gypsies.
The point is,
Show me. Show me.
The proof is
Your hadiths are talking about your prophet, and your prophet is someone who had sex with a child. Now,
that's not my hadith.
the point that we were talking about. Are you a Shia?
Yes, I am.
You're a Shia. So why do you reject the hadiths of the Sunni?
Because the Sunnis have made up a lot of hadith to support their own religion.
What about those hadiths that come from Aisha?
Well, they say a lot of hadith come from Aisha, but they just put a name at the top of it.
Okay,
For their agenda.
so what you're saying is his hadiths are not trustworthy.
Not all of them. Some
Not
of
all
them
of
are. Yeah. A lot of them are garbage.
Okay, so let's be clear.
No,
No, hold on. There's a point here.
Okay,
There's
go
an
on.
important point.
Yeah.
The hadiths are used to interpret the Quran. And the Muslims are in no agreement about which hadiths are reliable. If the Muslims themselves cannot agree upon which hadiths are reliable to interpret the Quran, where does this leave Sharia? This so-called perfect system of laws? You yourselves don't agree.
Have mercy, Bob. Have mercy.
There's no need for mercy here. Unfortunately, you probably have not studied the difference between Sunni and Shia.
I have some of it.
I used to be a Christian. I used to be a Sunni, and now I'm so-called Shia. What they call Shia, I call true Islam. Yeah. I'm not an orthodox Shia. In other words, I do not practice their culture. I practice what is based upon the Quran. Yeah. The Sunnis, for the most part, do not use the Quran as the standard for measuring hadith. They use the chain of narration. Yes? Especially, obviously, the Wahhabis and Salafis. That is the weakest methodology for authenticating hadith. So it's not very difficult to find out which hadith is authentic in regards to a lot of what they say. So when you talk about Sharia law, etc., for instance, the age of Aisha, let's deal with that one as an example, yeah?
Okay.
So, hold on, brother, hold on. In regards to the age of Aisha, I'm going to give you, brother. Wait, brothers. Have you got a good sound over it? All right. Okay, let me explain this to you. The reason why they put Aisha's age at 9,
The Sunnis. Yeah, go on.
I'm talking. The reason why they put her age at 9.
But you took very long time. Have you found that source?
Yes, I have.
Okay, right.
Let me just say this one thing. This very simply.
If you can say it quickly, because I want to come back to what we were talking about.
Very quickly, right? It relates to the position of Imam Ali. Yes? The Shia argument back then, and even now, is that Imam Ali was one of the reasons was that he was the best person for the Caliph because he moved into the Prophet's house at age 9.
You don't need to tell. I know this.
Hold on, wait. This bit you don't know is that the reason they put her age at 9 is because he became a Muslim at 10. So to make her seem more authoritative in regards to narrating Hadith, they would make up Hadith, put her name at the beginning.
So your argument is that we can't trust Sunni Hadith because they made them up.
Not all of them.
By sticking a name at the top.
Not just sticking a name at the top.
I agree with you that Hadiths are deeply unreliable as a source of history.
Some of them.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So you made your point. Go on. You've got this reference. I've actually forgot what the reference was. About the niqab.
Aisha reported that the Prophet wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old and consummated his marriage when she was married. Hisham says, I've been informed that Aisha remained with the Prophet.
Okay. So sorry. What is the niqab there? Where is the niqab?
Nikah. The marriage contract is what we call the nikah.
When was that written?
When she was 6.
Right, but you were using this as a... hold on. You used the reference to the nikah as a demonstration that someone could give a responsible consent to marriage. That was if you when you play this conversation back. Right. So, but you're actually telling me that a 6-year-old now is in a compass mentis situation that they can legally agree to a contract.
Reject the Hadith.
Is that what you're saying?
Reject the Hadith. By who?
By Bukhari.
I agree. The science of hadith is a joke, and the idea of hadith is a joke.
The Sunni science.
Yeah.
The Sunni science.
But my point to you, if you remember the conversation, Mohammed, if you remember the conversation, Mohammed, I was talking about why the Christian practices are superior to Sharia law, and I said it was about verbal consent. And I would ask all of you to use your reason. The Sunni Muslim, not the Shia, to be fair to him. One second. The Sunni Muslim is stood here and honestly trying to argue to us all that a 6-year-old child is of such mental capacity that they can enter into a legal contract. I ask you to use your reason, and if your reason is leading you out of Islam, follow the evidence. None of you, or any of you here, saying that 6-year-old children can enter into legal contracts. Come on.
There must be a dating site for kindergarten girls then.
Tell me, brother.
This is why earlier I asked you about the reasoning. If you knew the reasoning behind the marriage contract, why
You're gonna make it
Aisha
worse.
was specifically selected.
See, this is
Brother, you're making it worse.
I'm not here to just tell people what they
To be
want
fair
hear.
to Mohammed, hold on, stop haranguing him. I want to be fair to Mohammed. At least he's willing to stand by his book, which is better than Shamsi, and it's better than Ali Dawah, and it's better than Hashim. He stood here and he's actually defended the insanity of the hadith, which is credit to his courage, if not to his intellect.
You know how welcome that is?
So go on.
I'll take it as a compliment.
You take.
It's given as a compliment. I admire your conviction.
Hey, what? Edit me out, yeah? Edit me.
Like I said, I'm not here to tell people what they want
Brother,
to
I'm
hear.
saying, what about your own brain?
I studied
Are you
the
not
hadith
supposed
for
to
quite a
use your
long
Have
reason?
you met a 6-year-old?
Right. Does your
Have you met any
reason?
6-year-old?
Like I said, we're not.
Does your reason tell you a 6-year-old can enter a legal
Have you met
contract?
a 6-year-old before in your life?
Not today. Like I said, when we're discussing this, we're not discussing this about a 6-year-old. We're talking about
The amazing Aisha.
Aisha.
The
So
amazing
what's unique
Aisha.
about her? That's what he's going to ask you, then what?
This is why I wasn't going to respond.
Was she touched by the divine?
You know, let me just hear this bit here. You swear what? No, I'm not Christian, bro. At all.
All right.
But I use my logic and reason, bro.
If you knew the reason why Aisha was selected
Bro,
to marry the Prophet. Do you know the
For me, it's irrelevant, but I suppose you want to tell me.
No, I was also going to ask.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. Okay, it's irrelevant.
Even though she was 6 years old,
Yeah.
she was at an age where she was very educated, she was very sociable. So these were qualities known to her. Okay?
No, listen.
So everyone knew her to be a very mature.
So a 6-year-old child, according to you, was mature enough, mentally educated enough to enter into a legal contract.
She was. Okay.
Dude, I do not.
I'm not telling you you have to accept.
I'm glad you're not trying to tell me I have to
because
accept.
you don't have to accept
But
anything.
now, 1 second. Reason with me.
I am reasoning. But
So reason
I'm not telling you.
Can you identify another 6-year-old?
No.
Right? Another 6-year-old in the whole of history across any civilization that we have a historical document showing that they had the mental capacity to enter into a legal contract.
No one comes to mind.
Not one.
Listen, no one comes to mind. It may be. It may not be.
What evidence do you have that she was mentally able?
Because of the reports about her intellect.
Give
We
me
have
no.
reported 2,210 hadith.
Okay.
Right? And
Yeah, that's
she
it.
is the
She
person.
memorized it.
She is the person. And say, for example, I'll give you one example.
No,
she was the wife.
I was going to get to that.
When,
The question that I'm asking.
When Prophet done the Hajj.
The question
last
that I am
time-
asking.
Yeah.
The question that I am asking is a simple one. All right. We can do better than Sharia law. We can do better than Sharia law.
That's going to be a
We can do
flop.
better than Sharia law.
That's going to be a flop.
We can
I
do better
guarantee
than
you.
Sharia law.
That's going to be a
Right?
flop. I guarantee
There is
you.
no 6-year-old child
there is
ever
no better law
that
than
is
the Sharia law.
compass mentis enough to enter into a legal contract.
Now,
It's common
as-
sense.
as
Everybody
you-
knows that to be true. So,
Bob,
to evidence your case,
Stop
to
talking
evidence
like
your
a
case,
radio.
don't force
Just
yourself
let him
into this
talk.
conversation.
Yeah? No, you are not
To
allowed to
evidence
talk.
your
He's
to
trying to
evidence your
explain
case,
you're not allowed
Mohammed,
to talk.
I want you to produce hadith to me that show that at 6 years old she demonstrated sufficient
We
intellect
are not
to
in doubt.
enter
Why
into
are
legal
you in doubt
contracts.
with that one? Do you have any
in
doubt?
doubt. This is not
Then
about
why
me.
should we?
This is not-
We don't care.
No.
We don't have any problem
No.
with that one. If you have the problem, you
No.
go online, you find out. We don't have to. Do you have
Why
any
don't you
problem
want
with the
to?
situation? We don't have to.
He's better than you, dude, at Dawah, I'll tell you
Okay,
that.
I will tell you. I
At
will
least
tell
he
you.
tries.
Let me interrupt for 2 minutes.
I will let
Sorry.
him go in because he has asked for a while.
Yeah.
And
Okay, yeah. So
Okay.
you can carry on after this. You can carry on. In Islam, I'll give you. In Islam, if you want to the law and the basics of Islam in the
If you're
marriage,
interrupting in my
the marriage.
conversation with him, I want you to answer my question.
Yeah, go on.
So my
I'm
question is
answering.
this.
Yeah.
My question is this. Because I am
No,
stood here.
I'm trying to answer
Can I
this
answer?
question.
Can I ask the question? Because I am stood here saying to everybody that we can do better than Sharia law, and that the Christian faith provides better values than Islam, and that liberal secular
You can
law
say anything.
is
You
superior
can
to
say-
Sharia
you can
law.
lie as much as
Now,
you like. We don't have any problem.
you are here arguing.
Yeah.
You are here arguing
Yeah.
that I should accept Islam
Yeah.
because Sharia law is better than liberal Western law.
Right, okay.
So, I have.
I didn't say that one. That's your thing,
I
by
am
the way.
using
I didn't say-
Aisha.
That's not my
I am
argument.
using Aisha as an example of the inferiority of Sharia law.
Okay, thank you
So what
very
I
much.
want you to answer me this.
Right, okay.
He has demonstrated evidence that shows that it was assumed that Aisha was mentally able to enter into a legal contract at 6. What I want you now to do is to provide me evidence that demonstrates her intellect, showing she was capable of entering into a legal contract at 6 years old.
Wonderful question. Thank you very much, Bob.
Let him
Thank you
answer.
for that question, yeah? And I don't want you to interrupt me when I'm talking. I didn't interrupt you. Thank you very much, yeah? And we Muslims, let's say Sunni Muslim, we don't have any problem for a 6-year, for when Aisha got married at the age of 9 and when she was engaged at the age of 6, we don't have any problem with our marriage. She married at the age of 6. She went to the house of the Prophet. She went to the house of the Prophet at the age of 9.
She had a legal
At the
contract
age
at
of
6
9,
and had sex
she
at
was
9.
engaged.
That's
and
the argument.
the same hadith which you have been discussing. She was playing in the.
That's the hadith.
Yeah, as you know, the same hadith that you have been discussing. She was playing in front of the house when Prophet asked. You know that hadith.
Yeah, she was playing in front of the house with
Exactly.
dolls. Yeah, we know that.
We believe that's a Sahih hadith, and we don't have any problem with that one. We don't have any doubt in that hadith, and we 100% truly believe in that one. If you have any doubt in that one, you go and check in that one. We don't have any problem. Yeah.
Okay, you haven't answered the question. No.
Bob.
Dude.
I didn't. Listen. Bob, I didn't interrupt you. You can't interrupt me.
Well, okay, but answer my question at least.
No.
Provide your evidence.
You just said you don't need to provide me evidence. That's your answer.
Listen. Relax.
Let me restate the question.
Relax.
Let's refocus.
Relax.
The question was.
No.
Repeat the question, Bob.
Listen. You asked me a question.
What's the question?
What's the question?
Listen. Let me answer.
What's the question?
Relax. I don't want you to talk. Keep asking what's the question. Blah blah blah. I don't want it.
Answer the question then.
I give you a chance to ask me question. Let me answer that one.
Okay, I'll give you a few
I
more
will give
moments.
you a question. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a few more moments.
Right. Please. Now he asked me he wondered why he should accept the Sharia law.
You might want to hold your umbrella a bit high.
Sorry, do you want to hold it? Sorry.
Yes, go on.
Thank you. Because keep getting complaints about the umbrella. Now, I don't agree. I truly don't believe there is a law book called Sharia law. I truly don't believe in Islam.
I'm not going to stand here and listen to a monologue. The question that I asked you. The question that I asked you.
Then I'll carry on.
No, you had your chance. It's Mohammed's turn now.
No, I'm going to take my chance.
It's Mohammed's turn.
No,
you're forcing yourself. Me and Mohammed.
I don't mind.
Me and Mohammed.
I'll keep forcing myself.
Me and Mohammed have had
Bob,
a calm
I don't
conversation.
care. I don't care
for
who
good,
you are.
what, 40
I'm
minutes?
going to answer this question.
You're trying to force your way into
let
this
you carry on.
conversation. I waited patiently. You didn't answer my question. I am saying to you,
Because your question is
if you
irrelevant
are
to
a
me.
Muslim
Your
and you
question
can
is
hear my
irrelevant
voice,
to my-
I am saying to you that the Christian way is a better way than Sharia. I am
You
saying
can lie.
to you,
Bob,
you need to
can lie as
leave
much as
Islam.
you can. You
And
can
I
lie
am saying
another-
to
you can put another
that the
lie.
reason
can
why
lie
you
after
can
that.
leave
I don't
Islam
care, mate. I don't
to
care.
a better
You can keep
system
lying. But
is
let's
because
focus on
the
the point.
Sunnah of
You
Muhammad,
were talking about
the Hadith,
you
are
were
trying
talking
to
about-
say
Bob, you
that
were
a
talking about the
6-year-old
marriage in
girl
Islam.
had a legal contract at 6 and was able to enter into a legal contract at 6 years old. I ask you to use your reason. Do you know or can you imagine that a 6-year-old girl is ever able to enter into a legal contract knowing what they are entering into? Now, my question to you, because you were
I'm
saying
gonna answer that. If you
that
can answer
Aisha is a unique case. You're saying that she is unique in the entirety of human history, across every civilization, over 10,000 years of documented archaeological study of civilization. You're saying Aisha was a unique child, that at 6 years old, she was compass mentis enough to enter into a legal contract. So I am asking you a fair question. Demonstrate to me using evidence that demonstrates her intellectual capacity to enter into a legal contract. Because there are hadiths that clearly state that Aisha was playing with toys. You would not argue from the evidence available that a child playing with toys at 6 is able to enter into a legal marriage consciously, knowing what she's entering into. So demonstrate the contrary.
I'm
asking Mohammed.
I'm answering
You had your chance. I'm asking Mohammed.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm answering.
No, No.
the camera.
Shall we step away?
I'm coming there. I'm gonna come there. I'm gonna come there. I'm gonna.
He's triggered.
No. I'm a dictator. I don't care. I'll let you.
Stop forcing your way. Okay, Mohammed, I'm going to step away from him because I want to hear your answer. So please, if you would, come with me. I want to hear your answer.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to answer in front of the camera.
So, the cameras, if they want to, can move away.
I'm coming in front of the camera anyway. No
Your evidence, please, demonstrating Aisha's intellect.
my umbrella. Thank you.
Before I bring in the hadith, because I don't want to...
No, dude. Sorry.
Brother.
Why you don't want to answer me?
You had your chance. You had your chance.
Football.
I want to hear Mohammed. Go on.
Sorry.
He's triggered like a feminist who spotted a bunch of Catholics protesting at an abortion clinic.
He's not the lawyer here.
The guy is triggered like a feminist. Control yourself, social justice warrior, please.
I'm waiting for you,
Okay.
I don't need soy boys here. I need real
I'm
answers.
just having fun, mate.
I know you're having fun.
It's not a test.
I'm just
I'm going
having
to try and look at
fun.
everyone.
Yeah.
I'm just having fun.
I'm waiting for you, though. I'm waiting
try
for
and
you
find
from
the
my side.
sources
Don't
for
you?
Run away, that's my umbrella.
Like I said,
Hey, I'm here with you. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you myself.
in Islamic history, it doesn't mean it's a unique case in the whole of human history. There might have been, there might have not been. Others, okay? But I think what you're doing is conflating Sharia law with a unique case. Because as I stated towards the beginning of the conversation, is that nowhere in Sharia law does it stipulate that we should follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ when he married Aisha. Nowhere. It doesn't exist.
But it doesn't say that in lots of other things either.
What's the age of consent in the Sharia? There's none.
No, we should check on the Sharia.
All right, so that's the Sharia law.
Apart from the Quran, we should check
So that's one side, okay? Now, if we discuss in Aisha,
But there's no age
I
of
said
consent.
it was a revelation to marry her
If she, if she
due to who she was at the time of marriage and who she will become. Okay, as you know, we call her the mother of the believers. Yeah? Aisha, she's called the mother of the believers.
any non-Muslim, any non-Muslim, it's a piece of cake.
And she was so important, as he said, she memorized 2,210 hadith.
At what age?
She learned the Quran in 3 months.
What age?
Just talking.
Come on, let
That's young, guys. You got to learn when you're young, don't you know?
Right, his life. For about the next 9 years, she memorized 2,210 hadith. That's more than anyone else has memorized.
Mohammed, if I may, I'll let you finish your
Okay,
point,
go on.
but you're making an assertion here.
Oh no, this is not an assertion.
One second. Hold on 1 second. You're making a historical assertion that doesn't validate your case. You are saying that a disputed point of history, that Aisha memorized all the hadith. Shia Muslims don't agree with you. Shia Muslims do not agree with you that she memorized all those hadiths. This point that you're making is in dispute, and it is a point that was made centuries later. Right, so who at the age, when Aisha was 6, who was going around saying that Aisha's memorizing hadith?
Well, that's because after he died, that's the period of time when he was saying things. So you can't actually say, hold on. How can you say to someone, what do you call it, before they've died, before they've mentioned 2000?
When Muhammad died,
So
when Muhammad died,
she's already...
Who was going around saying Aisha memorized 2,000 hadith? Who said it when Muhammad died?
Not specifically that number. Yes, you're right. Today,
Thank you.
hold on. Today, yes, we know she memorized that much.
No.
Hold on.
I'm asking who said that? Who was the first person to say that?
I don't know who the first person was.
Shall I tell you? I don't know their name. No, I overstepped my mouth. I get it back down. No. I was going to walk into error. I was going to speak in ignorance.
Yeah, that's good. Listen to me.
So, no, I don't know, but I'm going to have to research. But my point to you is, that I am quietly confident that this claim that Aisha memorized all these hadiths, came much later. And my challenge to you is, find the first person that made that claim.
I will go away and do that.
And they can get me my dates.
Like you, I don't know.
Right, but if you now do a thought experiment with me.
Can I finish my?
Yes, of course. Sorry, yes, absolutely.
Sorry, because I've got quite poor memory. I forget things like that.
Yeah.
scam.
You were talking about Aisha's intellect,
Yes.
and you were going to demonstrate her intellect. And so far,
Yeah.
you haven't provided any source.
Like I said, I will if I can find.
Okay.
Well, I said, after the death of the Prophet, Aisha, we know that she's memorized so and so, at least, if not 2,210 until later, we know that she's memorized a fair amount because it was the companions who, when they went into a dispute, they went to her for guidance because she lived with him, because she was able to give that guidance, because she was able to tell them verbatim what he said. So that was the importance of Aisha.
May I reply? You're arguing from a time when Aisha was 18 years old. When Muhammad died,
but I told you the
hold
reasoning.
Hold on one second. I asked you for evidence of Aisha's intellect at 6.
Okay.
You have simply pointed out that when she was 18, people went to talk to her.
No, because I'm telling you about
That doesn't demonstrate her intellect at 6 years old.
Because I told you the reasoning was not just about who she was at the time, but who she will become. She will become a great scholar. She was a great scholar, the greatest scholar.
What is worse is that there's no age of consent.
Trying to find a reason and
Mohammed,
yes.
Let me try and find the source so that we can.
You find your source. But the point that I'm making is that the claim of the Islamic community that Sharia law is the superior system is self-evidently false from their own sources. From your own sources, you're arguing, and we quoted it, it's on camera, that at 6 years old, Aisha entered into a legal contract. And yet we cannot find any supporting evidence that would demonstrate sufficient intellect to justify that marriage.
She wasn't even asked.
No, but why is he saying
one
that?
second.
No, actually, Abu Bakr
Like
offered.
he's saying that, bro.
One second.
Talk to the father.
Her father offered, did you say?
No, talk to the father.
If her father, if
I'll tell you why, because
if a man's father says to a 6-year-old, I want you to do this,
that's just part of it.
does a 6-year-old have the will and temperament to turn to their father and say, no, father, I don't want to?
Muhammad saw in a dream, he asked the father, the father said, you know, we are brothers. Why do you want to marry my daughter? He said, we are brothers in the religion, but she is lawful to me. That's what
Why did he take
Yes.
it? Why did he
the
take
father
it?
took.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So where's the choice?
She still had to
Why did Muhammad take it? That's my
and like I said, that is it's not something that's a one-off. This happens till today in by Islamic law. By Sharia law, the nikah has to...
This guy's gold. You're so honest.
He's honest.
It's a refreshing change. It really is. You're a
To answer
refreshing
Ali
change.
Dawah's question, right, at 6 years old, right, the reason he never married her is that her hair fell out, she was ill.
Let's forget
No.
about that.
It
Now,
shouldn't-
if I
that's
offer
not right.
you,
That's
if I
not right.
offer
It's not
you,
because she was ill.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question.
If I offer you poison, would you take it?
Do you want to
No, you
see?
wouldn't.
Do you
If I
think
offer
that
you
children
someone
today
sincere, tell me, no, it's
are
all right.
able
I don't
to
want it.
consent
You
legally?
don't take it and you're going to
No.
tell me, yeah,
Right.
I'll offer you.
So what makes you think Aisha could then?
I can't buy that shit.
Like I said, there was a custom. We've got many writings, documented writings, whether it's by scholars, whether it's, I think...
And when were they written?
If they can find the hadith.
When were they written?
You have to remember the mode of transmission. Yeah, we never write down... We have historians like Tabari, who just...
When was it writing?
Several centuries, I know.
Thank
okay,
you.
listen.
So tell me, one second.
Let me finish at least.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, you're right. I am interrupting. Go on.
We have many sources like Tabari that do collect either authentic or unauthentic sources, and there were storytellers and stuff. But we also know the names of people who we can rely on, and we take their and we transmit from them, from the reliable sources. So that's why a lot of Muslims will ask when we get asked about Tabari and stuff.
Mohammed, if I said, do a thought experiment with me, right?
Yeah.
Let's imagine that the Gospels were not written by 90 AD, and they were written in the 7th century. About what would be your reply? Would you believe my sources?
I would test it.
Based on what principle?
Historical accuracy, who was writing it, how much
Historical
information-
accuracy. How would you check historical accuracy?
Well, let me think on that because that's caught me off guard. You would have to.
What the point that I'm making to you is that the whole Sunni argument about hadiths, right? If you just think, you can see how it makes no sense, right?
Well, in terms of the chain of transmission,
yes.
Because how does it not make sense to you?
Right. Do you honestly think that people in the 7th century, right, were thinking to themselves, consciously going around thinking to themselves, I need to remember this because in about 250 years' time, someone's going to have to write these down and compile them?
I'll tell you why I believe yes. I know you think that this is an insane thing to say, yeah? But,
you've said a lot of insane things today, but you've done it with style.
Cheers. Because if we take an example, Umar ibn Khattab, okay? After the death and after when he conquered Palestine, he went to when Jerusalem surrendered, and he came to pray. They invited him to pray in the church. What did he say to them? He said, "I will not pray in this church because several centuries later, Muslims will pray in this very spot and take the church from you." Yeah. So he decided to pray outside the church. Until today,
incidentally
today,
it never stopped them taking over churches.
No.
The never stopped them taking over churches.
The square, the Umar ibn Khattab square, that's where he prayed. Right in front of it, down the next street, is where the church still remains. Why? Because he decided to pray outside rather than inside. So that's foresight.
I wish they'd applied that logic to Hagia Sophia.
Well, that's the foresight of the Khulafa al-Rashidin and the companions, the immediate companions.
Hold on. So the historical evidence. Hold on. The historical evidence shows that this is a special case, right? Now you've shown that Umar
ibn Khattab.
Okay, I can't even. I'm not even going to pretend to pronounce that. So you're saying that you've got this example, right?
Yeah. To show the foresight.
This account that you're talking about.
Yes.
When was it written?
Of that specific incident
Yep.
of him taking.
Yep. When was it written?
Soon after, I'm not sure, about 20, 30 years, I think.
20, 30 years later?
I think. I'm not sure. I'm not going to give a timeline.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
It's an interesting question to research because my whole argument that I make to you is that the Hadith literature was and we know that Muslims don't agree about
my question? You don't answer my question, bro. It's not fair, man. I'm not giving it to
right?
Until today, we have scholars.
Answer my question. Yeah, answer my question.
I haven't had a chance to. I'm still talking to Mohammed. Okay, so give back the brothers.
No, it's not answering my question.
It's his umbrella.
It's his umbrella. Answer my question.
That doesn't matter. It's his umbrella. Give him back.
You ran out of my question, man.
Yeah, I know
Ask
you
my
are.
simple question. You ran away, bro. Come on, man.
So my point to you is, right, that the Hadith literature is in dispute amongst Muslims. There's no agreement amongst Muslims which Hadith are trustworthy or untrustworthy.
No, there are agreements for many thousands of hadiths.
And there are disagreements about many thousands of hadiths.
Yes.
So, right.
That's why when we come to you and quote the evidence, we quote the hadith that have been authenticated and the consensus of scholars have said, yes, this is true. We don't go and quote da'if or fabricated hadith.
Right, so all my arguments, whenever I try to make an argument, I use Sahih Hadith. But the point that I'm trying
to... You know that it's authentic by scholarly consensus when you quote it.
Yeah, was the ones that I quoted to you not scholarly consensus?
No, they're not. I'm just asking you, do you know? Have you actually gone and looked at whether this has been...
Not in every case, no. Not in every case. However, the point that I'm making
I'm not trying to use that against you.
No, it's fine. I don't mind if you do. The point that I'm making is that your hadith literature is written centuries later. Right? And then...
can also be traced back.
No, well, they say they can trace it back. But it's the Shia Muslim who was just stood here haranguing you like 20 minutes ago was pointing out
just to leave it. But that's
but he was pointing no he was saying that he's accusing the Sunnis of simply making up hadiths and sticking Aisha's name on the top.
Yes, and we've already debunked that.
Well, no, you say that, but the fact is there's lots of Muslims that think that that's true. Millions of them.
Yeah,
and they've believed that even since the Hadith literature started. The Hadith literature was produced late, hundreds of years late.
200.
The science of Hadiths and the justifications and the romanticizations of it came later still. So what you've got is bid'ah on bid'ah in a supposedly perfect religion.
It's not bid'ah.
To innovate.
That's a good
Is it not
question.
bid'ah to innovate?
In what sense?
To
To
make-
change the
to-
religion?
to-
To change the
Yes,
religion?
to change the religion.
Yes. But to
So
innovate
at the
in
time
other
of
ways...
hold on one second. At the time of Muhammad, what was the authoritative text of the Quran? Sorry, of Islam. At the time of Muhammad, what was the authoritative text of the Islamic community? Quran.
Yes.
Were there written hadiths at the time of Muhammad?
No, because of the Prophet, what he said, never write down my sayings so that
Yeah.
people never take it as the Quran.
Yeah.
So that was the precaution.
Yes.
Okay. But he never ever said that you cannot write it down later.
He said never, didn't he? I thought
No.
What
He
did
said, do not write this.
Do not.
Do not write my hadith with the Quran. So long as the revelation of the Quran came, they must not write.
Okay.
He never made the
So
limitation.
is it
He
a
never
change?
prohibited it.
Is it a change of a religion to introduce a new text as an authoritative text?
No,
It's not a change.
It's not a change because it's not introduced. And remember that this is not. How do I put this?
Would you agree that many of those texts were spurious and made up?
Yes, a lot of.
So would that fall into
And
the category of making things up, bid'ah?
Yes, and that's and
Okay.
we put that aside.
You think you're putting it aside?
No, we are.
No. The fact is, all we have is that centuries later, Muslims say we accept these hadiths, but we don't accept these hadiths, and these are our reasons. There is no way to know which ones are
Right, so
rooted.
there are categories, the criteria for Bukhari and Muslim about how they document the hadith, and to know which ones are authenticated. And as also all Muslims know, even the Bukhari and Muslim, it's not 100% hadith, sahih.
Yeah.
About 95%.
Yeah.
But we know, so the people that they transmit it from, it's not like Chinese whispers, where it gets distorted over time.
But you say it isn't. But clearly there were so many spurious hadiths that there was Chinese whispers. People were just making things up.
That's not Chinese whispers. People making things up is not Chinese whispers.
I agree.
Yeah, it's completely different. So, but there are other methods in which we can. So we've got, like, for example, who narrated the hadith? What were their life like? Were they trustworthy? Those are the kind of criteria. And there are also other hadith where we can see that this relates to the Quran. So we can say, okay, so this happened. So, like, for example, there's a hadith about what the Prophet did, and we say, well, this isn't the Quran. This is 100% true because it doesn't contradict it.
But let me. Hold on. You're saying that you reject a hadith that contradicts the Quran.
No. I said if we find a hadith where it says the Prophet did something, and we find it also in the Quran, then we say we can accept this hadith because it does not contradict.
So what happens if something contradicts the Quran?
Then we question it. We question the source. We question the mode of transmission.
So you're saying you would not necessarily reject a hadith that contradicts the Quran?
No, we would. I'm not saying we would look into it and as to why. Because remember, not everything is stipulated in the Quran.
Yeah.
Like, for example, prayer. We're told to pray 5 times a day in the Quran.
But it's not in the Quran.
No, it is.
It doesn't say 5 times a day.
It tells you about the times of day.
No, let's be clear. Muslims construct 5 times a day out of verses in the
All right,
Quran. It doesn't say pray 5 times a day.
Sorry, you're right. It does tell you to pray. It tells you the times of prayer.
Where does it tell you the times?
In Surah Hud, chapter. Because of my memory, I can't just spit out.
It's a side point, to be fair, to the main
anyway, it does.
So I just want to be clear about this, because you've given something an interesting answer.
Can I just finish it?
Yes, of course.
Because that was my memory.
No.
But it doesn't tell you exactly how to pray. Doesn't tell you how to perform ablution. All of this comes from the Sunnah Hadith. Yeah. So the Hadith are crucial, because it tells us how the Prophet did so and so. Yeah? That's where we derive the Sunnah from as well. Right? So things like that. So that's why we start questioning. We go deep. So it's not a matter of blind faith or talking and saying. We do actually reason. we do actually sit down, look at our sources and say, okay, so this says so and so.
Yeah.
Why does it say so and so? Does it match the Quran?
Yeah.
Who narrated it? Blah 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 blah.
My question specifically, and to be fair, we've talked for a very long time, and I really like talking to this guy for a number of reasons. One, you don't beat about the bush. Two, you're not ashamed of your book. Three, he will argue, even if I think your arguments are insane, but at least you've got the courage to stand there and argue for your convictions, which is better than a lot of the dawah. So I give you credit. Credit where credit is due. Credit where credit is due. You know? But my final question and final point, and then let's wrap it up. Yeah? If I understood you correctly, you have said that if a hadith directly contradicts the Quran, you would not necessarily reject that hadith. Have I understood that properly?
Not necessarily because.
Why I don't like someone to start laughing as he seems like he knows where he's like he's
So
very confident.
from your understanding, what is compulsion?
Empty vessel.
Compulsion,
Forcing someone to do something, or forcing someone not to do something.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. And in the Quran, it says, let there be no compulsion in the religion.
You know what it means now? You know what it means?
I'm not
You know what? I'm running. So you know what I have to do? You know what I have to do?
According to Sahih al-Bukhari, what are the 3 reasons you can kill a Muslim?
You can kill a Muslim?
Yes. According to Sahih al-Bukhari.
That's what I'm saying.
Kill a Muslim or
kill a Muslim?
I'm not aware of that. Can you?
Okay, Sahih al-Bukhari says that you can kill a Muslim for 3 reasons. 1, if they kill without just cause. 2, if they commit adultery. And 3, if they leave the religion of Islam.
Oh, the hudud.
Okay.
Oh, okay, you're referring to the hudud punishment.
Yeah. So you would agree? Would you agree that if you say to people, if you leave my religion, we're going to kill you, that is forcing them to stay in the religion?
No. Because there is, let's expand on the apostasy. All right. There is rulings on apostasy. So if someone apostates from the religion, they are free to do so. You cannot touch them. But they should not go and bring up dirt or insult other people of the former religion or cause social.
So when in the hadith Muhammad says you can kill someone for leaving the religion of Islam.
But then you need to go and look at the rulings behind it.
When
we look at the rulings behind
these rulings?
There is.
Hold on. These rulings came when?
We agree with you, at the time.
No.
You just made up your own opinion.
You quoted the Islamic school of Hanbali, right? When was the school of Hanbali formed?
I'm not sure.
I tell you, it wasn't at the time of Muhammad. So
No,
you're quoting.
No, you're looking at the schools of thought, but I always
You did. You mentioned it.
No.
Hanbali came out of your mouth, not mine. We Hanafi then.
Yeah, I said Hanafi in terms of the schools of thought that we have today. But
the school of thought. Hold on. The school of thought came later.
Okay, but I always go back to the Prophet himself.
And what did the Prophet say?
Yes, he said that. But
so
when we actually look into the sources. Yeah, I say I can't bring up all the references. I do have the resources at home. The sources, not resources, but the sources at home. But there are laws. I mean, if he causes social, what's the word?
Where did Muhammad say this?
I can't give you the source right now.
Right, we'll leave it there. But my point to you is, my point to you is.
Can I just finish because I know I haven't been given the source. But let me just finish. And even if someone starts going out and saying bad things about the religion or so forth, they are given chances to redact from that, and then it actually goes to trial and everything. So actually there is a trial for it.
Yeah,
and even
I'm sure there would be.
And even up to there, even if they don't, then the punishment is enforced.
So let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. If Britain passed, do a thought experiment. If Britain passed a law saying that anyone who becomes
we're finishing in 5 minutes.
If Britain passed a law that said anyone who becomes a Muslim
Sorry, say that again.
If anyone passed a law saying anyone who tries to leave the Christian faith to become a Muslim, they can be executed.
No, like I said.
No, hold on, one second. Do a thought experiment with me. We're imagining a world in which the British government says anyone who wants to leave the Christian faith to become a Muslim, they should be killed. Would you object to that law as being unjust?
I like the fact that you've been researching.
If it's just like that, yeah.
You would object to it?
If it's just like that.
Yeah.
No, but that's not the instance. That's not the case with Islam. It's not only if you apostate. No, there are certain. No. You know, if you apostate, there is no punishment.
Preach that to your Muslim brothers. Practice it yourself.
If there is,
I can't take lying. That's all.
Practice it yourself, man.
I'm trying my best.
if there is, well, listen, look, this is on camera, so people can fact check me.
Yeah. I agree with you that the school of Hanafi sets in conditions.
Yes.
I'm not arguing with that. What I'm saying to you is Muhammad never said that.
I have the sources at home. I will look at them. I will go dig them up.
Yeah, please.
And I'll come back to you.
Stick them on the video, SOCO film, stick them on the video, so that I can go away and look into them. What I want to see is Muhammad saying, in this condition, this condition, this condition, you don't kill the apostate.
Because I'm pretty sure that, I think there was an example or two where people have apostated and no punishment was set upon them, but I will have to, again, look at it.
Yeah.
And then I'll post the reference.
Because my point to you is this.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with this. Like, you've been very civil in comparison to the Islamic Dawah team, so much better than in terms of your conduct. You're an example to them. You really are. But in terms of our discussion, you have argued the following things: that a 6-year-old is legally able to enter into that is sufficiently intellectual to enter in. Aisha. Yeah. That it was okay to have sex with a 9-year-old child. That there is no need for an age of consent to protect children. That silence.
I did say there was a system to protect.
There's no age of consent.
No age of consent, but there is a system to protect.
Okay, fair enough. No, that is a fair correction. That silence can be taken as consent. That literature that came hundreds of years later is justifiable because it's got a list of names to attach to it.
Not just a list of names, but we go into, we know who these people are.
You say you do. You say you do.
It's not, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you're talking in the 21st century, right? How do you know who that person
recorded
was?
throughout the
Right, but every time that I've asked you for source documents from the 7th century...
No, because we don't come here prepared for a specific
Yeah, but no, hold on.
question,
You're not listening to me. Every time I've asked you for a source document from the 7th century, you haven't produced one. You produced one from the 10th century.
From the hadith.
Yeah.
Well, you're asking for a hadith.
Yeah, so the point is...
Yeah, and like I said...
So you haven't produced any source documentation from the time. If you ask me as a Christian, what documents can you produce to evidence your belief? I pick up the New Testament, and the New Testament was written by 90 AD.
90 AD.
Not the whole.
No, the whole of the Testament was complete by 90 AD. This is the position of Bruce Metzger, Bart Ehrman, Daniel Wallace.
You don't have the manuscripts.
Neither do you.
We do.
From the 7th century.
We have the Birmingham manuscript. We've got the top copies.
We're talking about the Hadith.
Oh, yeah, but now you're talking about the Bible, so the Quran.
Okay. Well, for me, the proper equation is Bible to Hadith. Actually,
that's not. I don't think that's fair because now you're talking about what do you call it? Religious scripture.
The Quran is a direct comparison. Is not actually possible between Christianity and Islam. We believe different things. But what I'm saying to you is, I can produce evidence closer to the time of the things that I believe in than you can.
I disagree.
So, but everything you believe about Sharia law is based upon the hadiths used to interpret the Quran, and the hadiths you would agree came from the 10th century, right?
The Quran also contains laws, yeah, which is part of the Sharia. Yeah?
No.
Which is further explained by hadith.
Hold on. You're not being completely genuine. Don't falter what has been a perfect discussion.
I'm not, because
the Quran does not give illicit description of Sharia. You use the hadiths to interpret the Quran.
That's what I just said.
Okay, but the hadith literature came in the 10th century, and you have no documentation from the 7th century to the hadith. None.
Well, that's because you don't accept the the way we transmit our hadith and the way we follow them back to the sayings of the Prophet himself.
But I'm saying to you that as a Christian,
I will try and find the actual.
I'm saying to you as a Christian, I have a first century collection of documents called the New Testament that the church gave birth to. The church gave birth to. The church is the original community, and it gave birth to these texts for itself, for its own use. Yeah? And these are far closer to the time. Now, just do a thought experiment with me. One last one and then we'll stop. I really do have to stop. And you're shivering. It is a cold day. And you've been a really, really nice person to speak to. So, do this thought experiment. We have two testimonies about events. One that came 200 years later and one that was written at the time. They're talking about two different events and they're two separate sets of documents. I know it's clear I'm making an allusion to the Hadith and the Hindu. But which would you be more inclined to believe? The documents that came 200 years later or the documents that were written within 60 or 70 years of the events that they're describing?
I'll study both and draw my conclusions from the reliability of the documents. For me, it doesn't matter what they call exactly how. No.
Are you Muslim?
No, of course.
What do you do? I respect it.
Okay, we're going to stop. Shamsi the first, the Caliph of
I'm not advising you.
You had your chance to debate me, so you walked away. Me and him have had a very Have I answered questions?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So you've just lied about me. You just lied about me. You said I don't answer questions. He said. Yes. So that's absolutely right. So is your prophet.
No, it's not. Because your English law is not criteria for my prophet.
So Shamsi.
English law is not criteria for my prophet. That's it. On the camera, he said my forefathers were pedophiles. That's it.
Do you want to debate?
If you let me speak.
So why are you interrupting?
No, I'm saying because my
brother. Why are you interrupting?
I know what you do.
He's being very civil. You are not being civil.
I know what you do.
What did that boxer guy say about controlling the tongue? What did the boxer guy say? What did the boxer guy say? Shamsi a good example? No, I don't think so.
That's my advice to you. Because that's what it does.
Because we're having a civilized. I know what you may think of him, but because we're having a civilized, there's no reason for me to.
Oh, no problem. No, I'm saying.
Fine.
What I'm saying, what it does, he will put in a camera. A Muslim doesn't know how to answer questions. He's not to do that.
But that is what the Islamic Dawah team. That is what the Islamic Dawah team do every week. Your words condemn yourself, Shamsi. Your words condemn yourself. Last week, you made a video attacking me personally. You made a video attacking me personally.
You said the camera praising the murderers of the Jews and the Christians.
Stop interrupting. So
anyway, brother, so forgive me for cutting you.
Notice Shamsi only asks one of the people that he was interrupting for forgiveness. So he seems to think that the rudeness of interrupting two people in his superiorist ideology, he only has to apologise to one of them. That says a lot about Shamsi's heart. That says a lot about Shamsi's heart. He was rude to both of us, but he only apologises to one.
That's a good point. I'm sorry for that as well.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Apology accepted.
I agree with that without any doubt. I agree with that without any doubt.
So,
I have to agree. I have to accept
Mohammed, I think you're bonkers. But you've done it with style, mate. All the way through, you've done it with style. I would encourage you, brother. Do you have an Injil?
I don't.
Can you read Arabic?
I read it online.
You can read Arabic.
Yes, I do.
Are you giving him homework?
I like homework.
You have been an absolute pleasure to talk to.
You as well.
You've been very nice. We're not going to label this video Muslim does not answer questions. We're going to label this video Honest Muslim answers questions.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That's the title.
Applause
for this man. Right? Integrity. Right? So this is my gift to you. Okay? I have argued with you. You don't need to. We have argued patiently with one another in a very civilized conversation in which I have tried my best to demonstrate to you the inferiority of Islam, and you have tried your best to demonstrate the superiority of Islam as a system of law. Okay?
Not really.
My
You
system,
keep
my
talking
way of
like
life,
a radio.
my way of life as a Christian is not a system of laws. It's not a Sharia. It's not laws. Yeah? We do have to follow laws, but my system of my way of life is an ethic based upon a relationship with God and my community. We try to influence the secular law of the society that we're in, but what we don't do is we try to create a system of laws for all time, because we know time changes and circumstances change. So I give this as a gift to you.
Thank you.
This is the source material that I would say is all dated from 1980. Have a read of it. Maybe we'll meet one another again. Hopefully. You can do your own research. Come back with those sources to me. We'll talk some more another time. You look after yourself.
You too, mate.
Take care.